This is the second review video for POSC 3600. Question number 4 is a question on universities, thinking about what is or should be the role of universities in the 21st century. And this is something that we've come back to over and over again in our discussions. And, so here you can analyze the role of the university. You can think about who gets to go to university, what are the barriers to access, how universities are funded, how they're made accountable, of the research, why research is important at the university level, things like that, curriculum, the impact of globalization and/or neoliberalism. You don't have to answer all of those things, but those are some of the things that you can think about. So we had 2 weeks, weeks 8 and 9, where we focused on post-secondary education. And week 8, we had our guest, Brad McIsaac, who came and talked about university funding and some other issues around university, focusing on our own university. We had readings on the historical overview of one university, Glendon College, and how that was came into being, as well as a little bit of history of university history in general. The video where we watched that in week 9 was called "Whose University Is It Anyway?", focusing on a student protest at Trent University in the early 2000s. And this video raised questions about the influence of neoliberalism and consumerist models. We have a question number 3 is on curriculum, saying that curriculum choices have a significant impact on the socialization of children, while also reflecting the norms of our society. Given government claims about fiscal realities, quote unquote, and the changing nature of Canada's economy and society, what types of curriculum should be included in the schools? What messages are being sent by current curricular decisions, including standardized testing? And how does this debate relate to neoliberal perspectives on education? So here we talked in week 5 about, it was called Knowledge and Curriculum. We talked a bit about the hidden curriculum and the influence of science and scientific thinking in the late 19th and early 20th century. And how did these new ideas about science influence technical education, domestic science, and so on? We talked a bit about practical education and industrial training, with the idea that it's about preparing kids to be good factory workers. We talked a bit about changes in the 1960s, which introduced some quite cutting-edge forms of curriculum. And we looked at the Through These Eyes video, which, again, was somewhat cutting-edge at the time, but received a lot of pushback. The articles were on equity, social justice, and curriculum change. One of the documents was the Royal Commission on Learning from 1994, which introduced again to grade 13, the Ontario College of Teachers, standardized testing of literacy and numeracy, and similar things. And then, of course, we talked a bit about the 1995 Common Sense Revolution as well. Question number 6 is a question on organization. So Risby and Lingard argue that, quote, the emphasis on efficiency and effectiveness in education has given rise to a particular conception of accountability, as well as a new way of thinking about educational governance. As a result, they argue that there's been a shift in how education is governed from government to governance. And so I want you to think about, what does this mean? What role has the OECD played in shifting the nature of educational governance? Have the benefits or the changes benefited or not benefited students, parents, teachers, communities? Pick one, you don't have to talk about all of them. Is another model better, and so on. Week 6 is when we talked about organization and administration. And there was a couple articles there, one by Seller and Lingard and one by Lessard and Brassard, that looks at education governance in Canada and the impact of globalization. Remember here that school administration is a tripartite structure. So there's 3 pieces to school administration. There's the provincial government, there's the school boards with trustees and the superintendent. There's schools, which has the principals, the teachers, and the parent councils. And I want you to remember that we talked about different styles of school organization came up at different points in times, historical periods. There is a question on teachers. So the question, and this one actually kind of relates to curriculum as well, but the focus is on the teachers here. Over the past century, teachers have been expected to teach an increasing array of subject areas and material. They have increasing responsibilities and correspondingly increasing requirements regarding qualifications. So here you can think about teacher training, you can think about the role of teachers and how that has evolved over history. You can consider questions about what should teachers be expected to teach and what qualifications should they have. Given the expectations placed on teachers, how should they be monitored or governed or made accountable, and who should be responsible for that role? So again, drawing widely on your course materials. Remember, these questions, the sub-questions, I should say, are the kickoff questions. They're intended to get you thinking about the broader question. But like I said earlier, there's no right or wrong answer. I want you to demonstrate your critical thinking. So week 11, we did talk about teachers and teaching, what makes a good teacher, how do you know who is a good teacher, teaching methodologies, teacher training, as well as government policy. My next slide apparently snuck in there. I thought I deleted it, but anyway, so ignore some of this. But one of the questions to think about is, what is the future direction of education in Canada? Is there a paradox of the school society? So this is the idea that on the one hand, we desire desire people to have credentials and in order to prove that they are well educated. Is there a likely direction that we should be heading in? What would it take to stop credential inflation? Is it likely to happen? So ignore that line that says next week. Apparently that got left in by accident. But the take-home exam will be distributed today. And obviously there's no class next week because classes are over as of this week. So here's the exam directions again. Remember that I do want it to be submitted into one Word doc file. It is worth 20% of the grade. I will talk in class a little bit about the fact that because it's only worth 20% of your final grade, there's not a huge imperative for you to do it. I think if your grades are solid right now, then you maybe don't need to really do the final exam. So I am giving you an opt-out. You just have to let me know. So if you're feeling extremely stressed out about the current situation and you're worried that you're not going to be able to do the best possible, the best you can, then feel free to opt out for any reason. You don't have to give me you just have to send me an email saying that you would prefer to opt out because things are stressful or whatever. So don't worry about that. But let me know, and let me know if you need more time. Right now, I feel like all of my deadlines are kind of random, trying to spread things out, but I'm also behind in all my grading. So, you want to finish the course before the end of April, but there is some flexibility. I will do a separate video talking about the implications in terms of grading and the option of the pass-fail. So, I'm sure I'll talk to you later this afternoon, but if not, have a happy summer and stay safe and healthy. I'm thinking about you.